despite a modest supply of foreign exchange by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Naira depreciated against the dollar by 6 basis points to 416 to a dollar at the inter-I&E window. Chuka Nwachukwu, the head of bonds trading at UBA, joins me now to discuss the performance of the markets this week. Thank you so much for your time today, Chuka. Let's first start with getting what the sentiments have been in this week.
Okay, so is it in reference to the fixed income market or on the FX market?
Yeah, in reference to the fixed income market. And
oh, okay. So this week has been an interesting week. We've seen two major activities this week. First was the NTB auction, where we saw the longer end came out at 4.35% from from the previous one of 5.2%. That's well over 50 basis point drop in yield, and so that has actually chart the course for their trading activity for the week. So we saw yield drop as low as 4% to 4.1, 4.15%. Yesterday was the OMO auction, where also another significant improvement in terms of the volume. So the volume increased from 60 billion, the previous OMO auction, to about 100 billion in this last auction, and of course the rate remained the same.
But let's go to the activity we're seeing play out in the importer and exporter window and try to understand what's playing out there.
Okay, so on the import and export window, we saw the Naira depreciated slightly from 416 figures to 416.7. So this has to do with huge demand at that window, and then of course we know what is happening as regard the Ukraine war, Russian-Ukraine tension. So obviously people are looking to go long on the dollar side, and so it's unexpected.
But looking also at the sentiments that we're seeing play out in the market, I'd like to go back to Thursday's OMO auction, and I'd like to get to understand how you are interpreting the activities, and how you would compare the current subscription levels to the previous.
Well, OMO auctions are really not, it's not for everybody. So it's basically for, it's just to attract foreign investment. And so we should look at the activities on the NTB side, and also to look at the activities on the bond side as well. I need to mention that because it's quite an interesting market, especially on the bond side, where we've seen that yield has continued to decline. Last week was a bond auction where we had two maturities on auction, 2026 and then 2042. And then the significant aspect of it is that the 2026 came out well over 60 basis points below where it came out the last time, from 11.5 the previous auction to 10.95. So I just thought I should point that out, because that has charted the course for what we are seeing now, which is the low yield. And of course this has to do with the amount of liquidity in the system. There's been a lot of liquidity, and then people are looking to invest some of these liquidities into available securities and then opportunities there are in the market.
But going into next week, what are your expectations, especially for the yield curve activity for the bond market?
Okay, so next week is also looking interesting. Next week is the beginning of the month of March. So in the month of March, we have quite a lot of liquidities coming in. Bond alone, on the bond side, we have well over 341 billion worth of coupon payment next week. That's next week, throughout next month. And then on the TBU side, we have some OMO maturity as well as the NTBU maturity, well over 200 billion. And so in total, we're looking at well over 500 billion coming into the market. So what does that tell you as a trader? Obviously, it tells that with this liquidity, at least, even if 40 or 50% is reinvested into the bond market, then that will crash the yield further. And so, and then there's another significant things that I need to point out. During the week, DMO published not the calendar, but a communique as regard the forward guidance for next auction. And then, it states that like on the usual Wednesday bond auction, the bond auction going into from next month will now be on Monday to settle on Wednesday, as the former case of Wednesday to settle on Friday. So I think that's a note for us to
Quite a lot